Hi everybody, welcome back to Facebook Live with So Steady. My name is Kate Quinn. I have been out the last couple of weeks, in and out, because I've been traveling, but I am so excited to be back here and to share this fun design with you. And as always, I try to incorporate some specific learning objectives into the project so that you can take those objectives and apply them in a way that seems useful for your own project. So it's not necessarily about making this exact thing, but it's about understanding more about the templates and what they might be able to do for you. And I'm going to give a shout out to Linda Martindale because she was on a Friday class and asked some questions, and that is the inspiration for this block. So thank you so much for that. Hi, Jane. Hi, Renee. A lot of familiar names. I'm so glad to see you guys. And thank you for being here. Honey is here helping out. I don't usually have a better sense of how much time this might take as far as the class. I can only stay for about an hour. So regardless of where we are, I have a birthday dinner tonight. So I'm going to be stopping in about an hour. And what we'll do is, I don't expect that I can do the borders for this piece. So my plan is I will pick this back up next time and complete whatever we don't have finished. So I'm going to call this, let's see, Feathered Crosshatch. So I'll put part 1 and part 2, and that way you'll know what's what. Okay, let's start really quickly with something more basic than this. It's going to get probably a little complicated. You know, sometimes you can tell me later, I'm like, wait a minute, that's too complicated or not. But we'll step it out as always and go slow. I want to show you this awesome ruler. I love it. Look, I've got my handle on it. It's so awesome. Let me show you the package. Right here. This is what you get. Right? Little ones, 2, medium, and large. This is the large one. Don't put it on this way. I did that on one of mine, and it hit the screw on my foot. So I put it the long way so that there's plenty of room here for the ruler to go against the foot without this bumping your screw. That'll be important. So the way they work, this little brown piece of paper, you're going to take that off. That's just to protect it when they're cutting these pieces. And then the adhesive is this white sticker on here. So you'll peel that off, and you're going to carefully decide ahead of time where you want it to go. And you'll see I kind of use this line, the white line, to line it up. So it would drive me crazy if it was cockeyed. So maybe that won't bother somebody out there, but it would bother me. So just make sure that you have a good placement. And I have used these in the past. I actually had them for 4 or 5 years when I worked at a local shop here. And for some reason, I don't know, when it came off eventually, and I didn't put another one back on. But it's great because I have a lot of good hand holding. Okay, enough talking. Why is that important? I am about to show you something cool. Right here, I want to put this sash on, and I actually sewed this entire one with this ruler. Pretty neat, huh? How do I do it and still make it look good on the back? So let's talk about that really quick. I'm just going to pull this pin out, and I'm going to show you what I did. Right now, when I put my foot right in this position, the foot is touching on all sides. So I'm going to demonstrate that with a foot. Here we go. Okay, and we'll just kind of fake it here for a second. So when I put this on, the side here is going to touch, and the back of the foot will touch. And this is the 1/4 inch where the needle position is. So I actually am starting sewing a 1/4 inch in from the edge because this is quilted. See that? So if I start all the way down at the very edge right there, then where these 2 seams come together, this one and this one, they won't end right at the 1/4 inch. One will cross over and it'll look odd. So my foot is the guide for this, okay? You'll also notice that I have these flat pins. And why is that important? The flat pin is very powerful here because I want the ruler to be on top. If the pin has a beaded head, then it's not going to stay in place very well, right? So when I put the ruler on here, grab it, okay? See, it can lay flat. So if you want to try this technique, I recommend these pins. Now, my pins are away from the stitch edge. That's because I don't want to stitch through them with my ruler foot. That would be a mess. So what this is doing is just preventing slippage here, but allowing the ruler still to lay flat. Now, we're on the very last row of this, so I can sew all the way from the end here. In fact, I could even sew off of the end if I wanted to. So I'm just going to double check my alignment right here. And I can do this two ways. I can put it like this with the ruler on the inside, and I can, put the foot right against it, but this doesn't really hold anything for me. This is the ruler off of the fabric. So I prefer, for myself, I'm right-handed, I want to control it on this side, and the tool we're going to use is that spacing gauge. So just another way to see how awesome our spacing gauge is, as always. So I'll line this right up, and I'm going to lay this right on the edge of the fabric and check it in a few places. That's going to keep your orientation. So right here, let's just get our foot tacked in right here. Okay, and I'm going to actually just bring the foot up just a tiny bit right there to get that little pucker in there. Once we get sewing, it should be okay. If you feel like this is really puckering up, what is the thing that you can do that can solve that? So I'm going to actually wait and let you guys answer that, because Honey's going to tell me if you get the right answer. So somebody said that maybe they need to change pins. So actually Rita said that. I'm going to comment on that. So Rita, I do use glass head pins a lot. All of these are glass head. But in this particular case, they are not functional. So it is good to have different kinds of pins for different needs. Nana, you are perfectly right. I don't know if somebody else said that, but yes, adjust the foot. So if you're on a machine where you have this much pressure because you're actually trying to stitch this in, you could just raise your foot up a little bit. And I'm also going to put my finger back here and pull a little bit against the fabric to make sure that this has some tension rather than it just stretching forward. By putting my finger back here, then I'm holding that tension so it stays even. And that's why we have so many pins in here. So I just saw that somebody asked for a pattern. No, I just made this up this morning. So I wanted something to show you the design that I made, and I wanted it to be pretty. I wanted it to be more than just fabric. So I just made this up. I basically just finished it right now while we're sewing, because we're finishing it right now. So I don't have a pattern, but I'll talk a little bit about it. And if there is a desire for it, then you guys can let me know and I can go ahead and do it. So you can see as we've gone a little bit and I've raised up my foot just a tiny bit, it's not buckling anymore out in front of that foot. Okay. So again, check it in a few places. So right here, I can actually see that I've got a little dip in there. I'll show you one additional tip. We don't want our fingers in there, but you can go like this, right? This keeps this out of the way, but you can maybe feed that fabric right under there without being in the way of the stitching. So we'll just keep going and we'll finish this up. Would this be faster if I just did it stitching? Yes, of course it would be. But the thing is, I had more batting, and then I decided to add this after the quilt was already, basically finished. So if you feel like you need to add something on later, here you go. It's an option for you. And this could be a fun way to piece scrap pieces together, as long as you have the length going, basically the full direction. You can go ahead and build pieces or not. Since that's quilted, I'm just going to tack that in. All right. Flo, I am not on 2 platforms. I am only on Facebook on Sundays. I don't have the ability to do that, and this is me from home. This isn't hosted by So Steady, although I'm using their Facebook web page. So what happens is I usually broadcast on Facebook one week, and then I put it out on YouTube on the next week, okay? All right. All right, so let's see what we have, right? How do we do? Did we do a good job? I don't know, we'll find out. Just pull these out. You can see it's pretty even. It's as even as it would be for me if I was piecing it. I can piece, but it's a struggle, right? And then right now, if I was gonna quilt this, I would press this, but we're not going to. So just to make this part kind of stay out of the way, you could just put a couple of these pins in here. So I won't do the other side. I'll do that, you know, off camera so we don't use up the time. You guys saw the deal. And if you wanted to have a narrower seam allowance or a wider seam allowance, you could absolutely do that. So this would just be a fun way that you could do some scrap piecing by using your machine. And then all you have to really do is remember that when you have an edge that you're going to have another joint, you're going to start your stitching a 1/4 inch inside. So let's see, did I catch my seam? Oh, I did good. I'll show you. It's got a little piece of thread hanging there that I'll have to fix. Let's see if we can get it up there, but we did pretty good. See right there? I'm going to cut this and clean that up. I might actually restitch a little there because that needs a little bit more. But there will be a design right here. So when I make this design that's going to go right in this corner, that is an easy way to fix that and keep that nice and clean. So this is that 1/4 inch in, and if I don't do that, I would have ended up sewing a 1/4 inch to there because this is where the fabric ends on that other side. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about our design right now. I put these triangles on, and basically this is just a strip set, right? I had black, and I started measuring from the black, and this is a 2.5 inch. These can be whatever size you want, it wouldn't matter. This is the 8-inch block, and this is a 1/4 square triangle. So what I did is I took the corner setting unit right there. This is the Westalee, and you're going to follow that guidance because this is a corner setting right here that you're putting on here. And so you would want your bias to be aligned on that side, and then I'm cutting for that 8.5, right? And you can see it's already going to factor in that seam allowance. So this was the tool that I used in order to cut these little triangles. So these are just to be fun and interesting, but the main design is right here. Okay? So again, using some of the other unique tools we have from Westalee, I do like their patchwork tools, and I think you guys can see, I saw somebody put out a comment and they're like, oh, get the thumb screws. Yes, get the thumb screws. They are so worth it. I would not want to have to unscrew it each time with the little hex key. Okay, so definitely you want these. They are really helpful. These all factor in the seam allowance. If I want an 8-inch 1/4 square unit, this is already including the seam allowance. So all I have to do, I'll kind of scoot this back a little bit, is my strip for cutting has to be this wide from the tip here. So I could actually just measure this, and I can make even my strip a tiny bit bigger. As long as the bottom is aligned, everything else will be cut off. So that's how I was able to make this little tip here. I had a little black strip, and whatever was cut off was cut off. So they're pretty even because I measured from this bottom alignment. Okay?
Can you show the name of that tool again?
Yes, this one is the corner setting triangle. And I have done some different classes using these patchwork tools. This is an 8-inch block, so you have to get the bigger set. Well, there is no 1/4 square larger unit. Like if you want to make from 6 to 12 for the 1/4 square unit, there isn't one. So if I want to do 1/4 squares for this, corner square is bias here. And if I want to do the opposite, which is the 1/4 square units for the large size, then you would put the straight of grain right here. you would use this same tool and you'd be able to get both corner square and quarter square. And I actually have some video and actually a handout on that. And I think that's the Crossworks class. So it explains kind of the options for this. If you want to make these larger units, this will make both your quarter square units and your corner setting triangles, okay? This is the corner setting triangle adjustable fabric guide, 6 to 12 inches, and it is a Westalee tool. Okay? Okay, so thank you, honey. All right, so that's how I made these. This part, the blue, is just an 8.5 inch square that I cut, and I sewed these on so that I could make a little frame for the blue. You'll see right now that I've got a couple of these lines. I want to show you real quick. If I put this is the smaller of the two, of the crosshair. I need to know right here exactly where the cross mark is for this part of it on the triangle. I actually need to make a line that extends into this part, which is why I put these triangles on, because we're going to do something a little bit weird. And I need room for my ruler to align out here to sew in there. So this is not exactly the best fit. This is when I would tell you that I want my bigger one, because I actually want to see where my lines are going to cross over. So let me get my large one, and you'll see I can literally have the markings on here cut right through my 8-inch square, and you'll see that I can line everything up nice and neat. I want this right here to cross the corner, and I'm looking at each of the corners and just manipulating them to get it to cross perfectly. That's going to give me the center, number one, of the block if they're all nice and tidy. And if they don't line up, then you're in trouble because it's not square. But you know, you can fudge it, right? So what I need to do is I'm going to mark these additional lines. Let me see if I get them all right there. Did I put this one in? I don't know. I can't look over the camera too well, so hopefully it'll all work out. So let's scoot it forward just a little bit so I can get right to this corner there. Okay, before I move anything, I told you that I need the lines to be a little longer. I actually should have turned this because I want the lines to extend out to there. Okay, so I'm going to kind of line it back up so I can mark these lines a little bit better. Right there. Okay, I think everybody's in their place. Now right here, it's difficult to see. If I did that purple, it would be very difficult to see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get out something that will be a little bit more visible. And hopefully we can make this work. Okay, so we're going to just gently mark this. Okay, because we need that spot right there. Why do we need this? I am going to be putting the circles on quilts on here, and it's going to go outside of the block so that we can make an arc from this corner to this corner over here. Okay, I think that one's already marked, and I've got one more over here. So I could do this off camera, but if I do this off camera, how are you going to see it, right? So it's a little bit tricky. You know, I'm going to use whatever color I need down here to get my line to show up the best I can. So I do have two different, you know, colors here, and it really matters because I really need to see what I need to see. So right here, I've got the lines. They're nicely marked. If you can't see them, then you want to make sure that you're going to change your color so that you can. It's really important that we have that marking. Okay, so let me show you what we want to do. I want to sew from here to there, okay? So when I align my circles on quilts, what I want is I want the foot to basically be able to fit from that point. I'll actually put the needle in right there to hold the place. And I'm going to get my circles on quilts out. And we're going to start working with them. And I think I said that the 9 could fit. 9-inch, let's see. I've got to show you what we're looking for. Okay. Right there. All right, So right there, I basically want to not cross over the midline right there. Okay, so if I push this up somehow, see how I can change the angle right there? So here I want to stay on my center line, and I want to make sure that when the foot is in that position, that he's not going to cross over. So if the 9 doesn't work, then we could try maybe a different one. Let's see if we can try this 8.5. Nope, I think we have to go up to 10 maybe. 10, 10, 10. So that's why you have so many of these, because they're awesome. So I can change the position right here as long as I'm on this straight line and I'm touching with the foot right here. You'll see that that's just barely the 1/4 inch. That means that I should be able to sew this all the way across to the other side. So one thing I want to do is I want to mark this position right there. And the important way to do that is I'm going to get the pin. I'm also going to check it with my spacing gauge real quick and make sure that it can do what I want. So maybe right there. Okay, I think that's good enough. We may have to fudge it a little bit. So what are you asking in terms of a question when you're seeing what I'm doing? Seems kind of confusing, right? I want the center of my circle on the straight line right there, but I don't want to cross the miter line right there. That's it. I can move this any way I want as long as I can match those two things. That's it. So now I want to go ahead and mark this. So I'm just going to stick my pin in there. And I'm going to try to lift up the fabric a little bit so I can get a little hole in there. I want to be able to see where that hole is so that I can mark it and measure it. Okay, so I'm not sewing anything yet, so I'll take that out. I got to find my little hole. Right there, I think. Oh, I need a heavier pin. Okay, so I'm going to get a big pin out. So I have this little heavier pin. This is going to be useful. You could put a needle in there, something like that, and we can just use the foot and basically just set it down right there, and as long as I can fit that in there, we'll be okay. Right? So we'll just kind of adjust it a little bit and get it right in there. I need it to have a nice visible hole in the fabric so that I can definitely find it. And what I need is I need to measure the spacing. Now what I did with the other piece is I actually measured the spacing on paper, so then when I came to sew it, I already knew what the spacing was. Okay, so there's my hole right there, and here's my tool, and I just want to measure from the center, and this is right at 7 inches. Can you see that right there? So when I go around to each of the other sides, I'm going to put the pin in at that 7-inch measure. And if you have some little caps and you have multiple pins, you can actually put all 4 pins in and just move the template around and leave a little cap on the pin to prevent it from getting you hurt. So let's go ahead and do that. And actually, I'll just go ahead, I'm going to mark all of these little crosses, and I'll try to mark them in a way that we can really see them well. Okay. Okay, so right there at 7, and then 7 right there. So they should basically be at the same place. If one's on the black and one isn't, that's a bad sign. Okay. All right, let's get this all marked out. Really good. We really want these marks to kind of stay in position for a little bit. Can you do it without the pin? Yes, you can. It'll work out. It'll be okay. I'll show you how to do that on at least one of these. So right here, I can just line up this on there. I don't have to have the pin, but the pin is useful, so I think it's worth putting it on there, especially for at least the first round. So when we do the first round, we'll put the pins in, and then when we do subsequent rounds, we can take it off because we won't need it. We just need the guide, the initial guide. Okay, so let's get sewing. Okay, I told you it was a little complicated, right? Am I in trouble? All right, I'm going to get my needle right there, picking it up right in the little corner right there of my box.
So Linda just asked, why don't you want to be in the corner where the black is instead?
My design is going to fit only in this blue. If I put the pin here or even here, what we're trying to do is prevent the arc from being too deep. Okay, for example, if I put the pin right here and I make an 8-inch circle, the 8-inch circle is going to go all the way up to the center because this is 4. This is half of 8. So what we're doing is we're playing with the design. We want this to be shallow, and we want the very first one not to cross the miter. If it crosses the miter, it kind of starts looking mushy like that, like when you make it too deep. And for example, this is a 9-inch. If we did a 9-inch circle, that circle would touch right in the center all the way to here. And then you would not get this fun openness. So what we're doing is we're bringing the arc down, further down here, but where it can still touch the 2 corners.
So Linda just added, I think she means in the outer black triangle.
Because the design that I'm building is going to show up really beautifully right in this blue. And if I start putting it in all of this mixture of colors and shapes, you're going to lose the value of your design. Okay, this design is really pretty, but it's a square, and if it was built into those corners, you're not going to see all of this. If the feather is out into this area, you're losing it. You're losing that value. So we don't want to do that. We want to keep that value. Okay, so we set 10. So here we go. Let's start sewing, and we'll work our way around the design. So I've got my stitches up, and here we go. So I'm just going to smush a little bit here, and I'm going to sew, I think, on the inside because that's going to tighten it up a little to this miter line. Okay, so because this is a square and we marked it in the center, we should pretty much get right back to this next corner. And if we don't, as I lay this on here, I can just do a little smushing to make sure that I do get back to that corner, because I want to get right in there, right to that corner. Okay, and then again, this is where we're going to move that pin. We've marked those positions. Would I go through all of this marking with it, moving the pins? Yes, I would actually. I would go ahead and do it. And you'll see why when we do the very first row with the pin and it's really, really clean, when we start doing the next rounds, we won't have to put the pin in, but the anchor is going to be the design that we've already sewn. So it's really worth, for this first part of it, putting the pin in and moving it for each intersection right there. Okay? Now, if I do it at a different scale, when I did the 6-inch block, I didn't use the same numbers because the numbers don't fit. I had to come out. This is 2 1/4 from this edge right here from the square. I came out 2 1/4, and I used the 7.5-inch arc, and that went from this corner to the center over here. And that was the base of this design. What we're trying to do for the very first one is not cross the miter. So it comes right into the corner where they both touch right there. Okay? So when we're doing that first one, you can see right here, that's just a little bit tight. So maybe I'll just do a little smushing because I want to try to stitch right up this first one. So if it has a few stitches that are close to each other, I don't care, but I don't want a big overlap right there. Can you have a big overlap if you want one? Go ahead. It's totally up to you. This is just a convention that I decided I wanted to go corner to corner, and I didn't really want a big, movement on there with one crossing over. And you'll see why we're going to do it like that in just a few minutes. Okay, so we've only got 4 of these to go around. It's not that complicated. We'll just mark it as we go. Would this be hard if we had a really big quilt? Yes, it would be harder, I think, a little bit harder. And in that case, what I might do is rather than move the pin, I might actually mark the arc with chalk, and then I would come back in and align the ruler to the chalk mark. And I think that would maybe be a little bit easier than having to move the pin every time. Okay, so you can see it's already starting to flatten us down a little bit. Okay, and let's show you what it looks like right there. It's pretty good. We're getting our 1/4 inch pretty close right there, so it should be able to sew nice and smooth right there. Okay, always let your needle stop, and then we'll keep going. So I'm staying on the inside. With the circles on quilts templates, you always want to remain on the same side that you started with, whatever side that is. That one's a little bit off, so that's my piecing right there. So I'm just going to kind of fudge it into the corner as best I can. Once we get a lot more sewing in there, if there's little adjustments or tweaks, nobody's going to see anything. It's all going to work out. I got a little wonk right there, I can tell. But when we're all done, we won't need to worry about that because it'll be invisible pretty much. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and stay right on our purple line. So we're right in line with the center. That's this purple line right there that I'm aligning it with, and my little chalk mark there. So I got a nice good mark on the back that I can see. So I'll put the pin in. Okay, and we'll do this last one. Okay, so pretty good. We're able to get pretty close right into where we want to be. Little few stitches close to the other one, but it'll all work out. On my design, the way I handled that is I just filled that in with some extra fluffy Freemotion so that it showed up hardly at all because there was more stitching in there. Okay, so we'll get right into the corner right here. And now we can take the pin away and we really don't even need it anymore. All right, so to give Linda her due, I was echoing my design the other day. I was doing some echoes on this and I was echoing on the outside. And she said, well, why didn't you echo on the inside? So we are going to do both sides today. And this is 10 inches and I want to echo at a 1/2 inch. So let's talk about that for a second. If we have a 10-inch arc, in order to echo it, this is the 12-inch arc. There's 2 inches difference here. So these will show up as 1 inch. If I jump up to 12, this would be 1 inch. So in order to have a 1/2 inch, I need to go up to 11. From 10 to 11 is a 1 inch jump in a circle, but it is a 1/2 of an inch on one side of the circle, and it would be a 1/2 inch on the other side of the circle. How do you close the hole where the pin was? Okay, good question. What I usually do is I usually just go like this, and it usually goes away. And if that doesn't do it, you can spritz it with a little bit of water and massage it, and when you steam it, usually that'll just take it right out. If you have fabric that is really weak and it doesn't hold really well, what I recommend is taking a little square of fabric when you put the pin on, and then you put it on top of the pin and you put the ruler on top of that. Why did you do the first circle all the way around the circle? Donna, I don't understand what you're saying. The first circle, it's not all the way around, it's only partial. They're all partial. See how this curve is not a full circle, right? So these are just arcs right here, arc, arc, arc. So if I'm not understanding your question, could you maybe put some more information in there? Because I'm not understanding. Okay, wow, we have so many questions today. This is Quilter's Dream Cotton Request Loft Batting. It's kind of thick, so it's going to be really nice. It is quite a heavy, durable batting. Like even if you pull on it, it doesn't come apart really a lot. So I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted. I want to go back to, I meant the block. Why didn't I make it all the way? I don't want that design in here. Something else is going in these corners, right? So right now, it's just this blue that is part of our design. And then in the black, there'll be something else, a little frame, and something else here. Okay, so we sewed using this 10-inch arc right there. So I want to go up only a 1/2 inch. So when I lay my next ruler on here, I want to use the 11, right? So when you think about matching up your circle sets, 10 to 11 is going to be 1 inch difference, but only 1/2 inch will show up on each side. Okay, so let's get that out and I'll show you what I mean. The circles on quilts are odds and evens, and then odds and evens by halves, right? So we need 11 right there. When I lay it on here from where I am right now, I need to scoot out to make a wider arc. I can't stay right there at the corner because that's not going to do anything for me. So let's get right to our corner. That's where we started. And I'm just going to stitch out a little bit right here. Just enough so that I can align my template. I need a 1/4 inch between the foot and the new arc. Okay, so right there, I think I went maybe a little far, but this is what we're looking for. So when I put this 11 on here, I need the bottom of it to line up like that. Okay, this right here, let's see, I got to go back to my pin. Where's my pin? Right there. Okay, so now when I line this right up on that pinhole, this is going to give me the arc that I need to come around. So let's go ahead and we'll start sewing. So I'm not using the pin, although I could. I'm using the pinhole. Okay, and then I'm trying to keep this just right in the middle. So as I roll around, I'm going to line it back up on the pin, and I'm going to sew all the way across. So that is a little bit easier than having to manipulate that pin all the time. Once we get that base design in there, then we don't have to worry about it anymore. Right here in the corner, I'm right in the seam allowance, and I have to come down and around and align to echo this next one. So same thing, you could just use your straight edge. You can use your 1/4 inch spacer, and we'll just go around the corner, right to the corner, and then turn this and just go the other way. Remember what we said, we need about a 1/4 inch in between the arc and the foot. And we're using the pinhole. So I'm going to turn it. I want you to see the pinhole. I'm going to come back just a little bit on the camera so you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay, so we're echoing this arc on the top, and we're going to be using the same pinhole. So the hole right there, I'm just lining it up right there, and I want my foot to be able to fit right in there. So if it won't, it might need one more stitch to get the foot lined up right there. So now I'm right on the pinhole, and my foot is in the channel, and here I go. Okay, and then the foot is holding my position, and then I just line it right up here on the pinhole, and I can keep on going. Okay, rotate, just check your pinhole each time. That's going to keep your design nice and smooth. And I'm right there. So again, you can use your straight edge and your spacing gauge. You're going to stitch right down to the corner, and then just change the angle. So I'm looking for that 1/4 inch right there. I don't have to rotate anything. I just take a few stitches slowly to check my position, and I'm about a 1/4 inch right there. So now we're doing the next arc, which is this one right here. All of these arcs are the same measurement. They're all this 11-inch space, but we have to be in the pinhole. So it looks like I might have gone up one more stitch than I wanted to because I can't line it up. So I'm going to put the pinhole in place and then get this right in the channel. Okay, so here we go. All right. So holding the pin in position right there, double checking that I'm right on the pinhole, and then here we go. So what's the lesson objective here is I want you to see that we can use our circles on quilts differently than you might think. It's not just that we have to make a concentric circle. We can also make arcs. And what we're doing with this is we're just using the spacing and making it whatever we want. We're forcing it to fit what we want with our design. So I'm right inside my little frame right there. And again, I'm going to go around the corner and come out on the other side. Okay, I can just turn this. It's nice to have this straight edge very conveniently available right there. And then let's see where our pinhole is. Okay, what do you think? So we are getting our pretty arcs and we're getting some unique little cross hatching right here. Once we put one more round in, you'll see we're going to get another fun little cross hatch. So what it's doing is it's helping us to create a little secondary design right there. Okay, just rotate using that pinhole. And the foot is keeping us in position, so it makes it really easy to help us get a nice smooth curvature. Okay, so where we are now, we did all the outside of these to make these right here. And so what Linda was suggesting is that we do the inside. So in order to do the inside right here, we basically are almost going to be touching right at this position, and we're going to be putting this arc on the inside. So let's go ahead and figure out what that is. So this is 11, this is 10. So if we want to be a 1/4 inch on the inside, what size do you think that we'll need to have? You'd put pearls in the channel? Me too. I'm probably going to do that. That was from Ellie Merriam. That's a really great idea. So, you know, this is an arc. And you can manipulate it to get what you want. And the key is knowing what the relationships are between these sizes. So if I go from 8 to 10, 8.5 to 10.5, this is going to be a 1-inch spacing anytime you're on the same fan. If you jump up just one, you're going to get that 1-inch spacing because half of the spacing will show up on one side of the circle and half will show up on the other. Good job, you guys. It is. It's a 9-inch. So I'm going to find my 9 because this is the wrong one. Okay. And again, if your pinhole starts going away, you could just put like a little dot of whatever you have, whatever your proper marking tool is, and that'll help prevent that pinhole from being lost visually. So I'm just going to make mine a little bit more visible because it's starting to wax and wane a little bit. Okay. All right, so let's get out that next one and we'll do the next one. This is the part that Linda was talking about. She wanted me to do this underside because she knows that it can create a fun cross hatching. So I think we may be in the right position there to start right there. So let's check that first. We may not have to stitch anywhere. We might be already in the right spot. 9. Oh, that's evens. No wonder that doesn't fit. Odds. Okay, right there. So we're really close. I think we need to maybe move up like 1 or 2 stitches in order to be able to fit in the channel. So we'll just move up a couple of stitches and then I'm right here on the pinhole and I'm right in the channel. And again, you can pick whichever position that you want to be in. If you want to stitch on the top of the arc or on the bottom, it's totally up to you. So I'm lining up my pinhole. I can see right there that I have the 1/4 inch where this channel is right in the middle, the stitch line. So that is a 1/4 inch, and then the foot is offering another 1/4 inch. Okay? Okay, and then we'll just keep rotating, keeping your pin position, and that's what's going to help you close your design right there. So I'm right in the black, and now we're going the other way, And that was just convenience. That just prevented us from moving unnecessarily because we were right in the right position to go that direction. So let's scoot over a little bit. All right, and let's see. So we'll get this lined up on that next pinhole right there. And always the channel is the guide, right? Once the pinhole is there, if I can't get this on right there, that means that I need to take another stitch a little bit in so that I can get the foot into the channel. So right there, I can get him right into the channel now. Okay, and then we'll just keep rotating around. What we're doing is we're forcing this same angle from the pin down to the base of this little block. Okay, and we're at the black, and we'll just go around. All right, so this is like a quiz right now. Let's do a little quiz to make sure that we understand what we did. Anytime that I go on one fan, if I go from 7 to 9, what will the appearance be between the two circles? It's a quiz, right? But I just want to make sure that you guys get it. You see it? So anytime we jump up one finger on any of these fans, on the same fan, you're going up 1 inch, right? It's 2 inches here, but you'll see only 1 inch apart. Because we went up just one number from odd to even, that's how we get this half. So if we go from 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 5.5 to 6.5, you're only going to get this 1/2 inch. When you go up a whole number, then you're going to have the 1 inch. And if you go up 2 numbers like 10 to 12 or 3 to 5, you're going to show that full 1 inch. And that's just something that you can use when you're planning your own designs. So right here, we need to sew in just a little bit here. There's my 1/4 inch right there. And then I'll just go ahead and sew right in the ditch and just get inside a little bit so I can position that. Again, we need that 1/4 inch right there to put this inner one in. So let's go ahead and put it on the pin and see where we are. So not quite where we need to be, right? I need to come in just a little bit more. All right, let's see if this will fit. Right there. Oh, did I go too far? I went too far. All right, backtrack. It's okay. Right there. Why am I having trouble making this one fit for some reason? Maybe I went way too far, huh? There we go. I think we did. I think we were almost in the right position, and I just sewed right past it. Trust the ruler. It's telling you what's right. So I still need one more stitch because I just went crazy. I just sewed really far. But there is the channel right there, and you can see right here, we're right on the pin. So as long as the foot is touching that, and we can sew right outside the channel. Now, why don't these fit perfectly? Why don't they touch in the exact same position for every corner? Because I'm not that accurate when I sewed this, right? And we're making this match to the best of our ability, but the block may be a little bit inaccurate. So it's not like I can control everything. So you can see that this one doesn't touch where the other one did on the other corner, and I'll show you that up close in just a minute. But that is not unusual that that would happen. So if your level of precision cannot tolerate this right here, which mine can, I'm happy with that, totally fine with it. And like some of them might be a little tighter, and this one's a little bit bigger. I don't care. I'm totally fine with it. It's going to look awesome. So, you know, there's a perfection quotient I think that we all have, and we have to decide what can we live with. So I'll go ahead and I'm just going to freehand around here, and I'm going to put my little plug in for freehand travel. If you are quilting and you don't know how to travel comfortably, I encourage you to practice it whenever you can so that you can do it when you need to. sometimes you just cannot get a ruler or whatever to follow a design that might be a little erratic or a little curvy or whatever. So if you go ahead and you practice, you're going to be able to travel more effectively and you're going to be happier about it. Okay, so we're done. We put in all of our lines. Debbie says, I think this relates to Donna's question. Instead of going around, your question just vanished. Hang on. Could I have kept the pin in and swapped the rulers? Yes, so now I said that at the beginning. What I said is you could put your pins in, all of them, all 4 of them, and leave them in, and you can just put a little piece of an eraser on them, and you can have all 4 corners, and the pin can stay right in there. But I know that I wanted to also show you how to use the pinhole. What the difference is with the pinhole is it's more flexible. I don't have to worry about the pin being in a certain place or not. As long as I have the visual, I can just use that as the alignment. So either way, you can do either of those. Whatever is working best for you, that is what you should do. Okay? All right, so let's see where we are. So we finished this part of it right here. And remember what I said, this is not a specific number. So if you're gonna say, well, she did an 8-inch blocks, what numbers did she use? So we used 9, 10, 11. But what matters is this distance. I could do 12, 11, and 10, but maybe I have to push the arc further down because the 12-inch arc is wider. It's about measuring what can fit from this corner and this angle so that you can sew corner to corner for the very first one. And that means you can do it at any size block. You can do it at a 6-inch block, you can do it at a 9-inch block, and there isn't a rote decision-making process. You're literally gonna put the template on the line and you're gonna see where can it be with the foot in the channel to that corner. So you can use this at any size. And in fact, if you have a really, really big block and you wanna do this, then you could get the big circles and you can still do it at the bigger circle if you have a really big block. So this is not a rote, it's about understanding that you can choose how deep this arc is and how deep it pushes up. I wanted this space to be open, but I could have moved my pin up and had a deeper arc and not worried about the miter. Those are choices that you get to make when you're designing this, and you can draw it on paper and that'll help you understand what you're gonna get. So Linda, I wanted to bring up one of the other designs that I did on paper first. It's a little bit bigger block. And the reason that I chose the 1/2 inch is this is a 1/4 inch. I tried it with the 1/4 inch from corner to corner, and I don't like this. I think it is a little too messy for me because it's so close together because they're only a 1/4 inch apart. I think you lose the value of your cross hatching at this scale. And if this quilt block was really small, like the one I did is only 4 inches, this would be too much busyness for such a small block, and I wouldn't like that. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't do it. That just means that's a decision for your inner artist to decide what spacing you want. I could have a 1-inch spacing on here, right? If I chose to go up instead of one number, 9, 10, 11, if I went up 2 numbers, right? Then I could have bigger spacing and the crosshatch would be wider. That's something for you to choose, okay? So let's see where we're at. We are almost at 1 hour. So let's go ahead and we'll ditch this, and I think we'll stop there. I think in order to do the feathers, I want more time. I don't want to feel compressed for time. So what we'll do is we'll ditch around with the same straight edge that we used. So this is the SR 8x3. If you have the Flower Power set, I think the Flower Power has the 2.5 by 8. I think it's really good to have an additional straight edge, And I'm going to pull up our trusty 12-inch arc and show you why I like having this. This is awesome, and I can make straight lines for days with it. It's totally great, but the maximum width that I can align for is 1 inch. There are 3 lines on the ruler, and the foot is going to add 1 additional space. If I want to do additional straight line work that is wider or create additional patterns, I need more lines in order to do that, right? Unless I just want no bigger than 1, like if I want a 1.5 inch spacing, very hard to get with this, right? Not easy. I can do it with this. I can do many and more than that. Let's say that I lined this up on here and I was making some patterns. I can keep additional lines aligned on the reference lines as I build away from the line, keeping everything straight. Whereas if this was as much as I could go, then as I started going out here, maybe these would not be the same nice and straight, right? But here I can use this as a reference line, that seam line and that seam line, and that way I can keep building out and have those lines look really pretty. Okay, so let's just do some ditch work really quick. I'll go ahead and I'll make this nice and squared up to the machine. Spacing gauge. If you have never ditched with rulers, oh, I can't go back to a walking foot. What I learned being able to ditch with a ruler is that I don't have to change directions of my sandwich. Oh, bumped you. Sorry, my head was in the way. Ha! Right, so let's get to the corner. We're right in the ditch right there. And what I've done as far as piecing is all these black ones are flipped this way. So the black is the ledge right there. Literally right there, I could run my finger right along the inside. So the black is the mountain and the blue is the valley. You're gonna take your spacing gauge and you're gonna line the gate, the edge right here, right up to your mountain, just like that. And if your seam is off, so for example, down here, I think my seam is a little bit bigger, but there it's perfect right there, then I'll only sew until my seam is perfect, right? If I see that it's wider down here, so about right there is where I see it starting to get a little wider, okay? Once I see that my needle isn't against the mountain anymore, I'm gonna adjust that, and then I can go ahead and have that nice ditch right there. Continue moving down and aligning with the spacing gauge so I can get all the way around. And this is nice right now because this is going to sort of let us close up any gaps that were made with our cross hatching. We want everything on the back to be totally closed in. I was going to try and do it without turning, but then you guys can't see anything. I always forget that I want to do that. But then the camera cannot show you what I want to show you. Okay, so let's go ahead. We'll just keep going. You'll see that this is nice and quick. Right here, I can hold with my fingers. This hand is controlling most of the movement and the ruler. Always fingers on, widely spaced. I'm activating this grip and I'm activating this grip down here with this hand position. These fingers are the bumper guard. They are detecting movement of the fabric, and they're also pushing just slightly the ruler in towards the foot. That's what's helping us to stay nicely aligned. And then this finger is just going to be useful here for helping us open up the ditch a little bit. Ditching does not mean I'm going to just race through this and go as fast as I can, right? It's not about ditching fast. Ditching is about being accurate and really being able to kind of hide those stitches nicely and get right up next to that seam. If I try to do it fast, or if I'm in a hurry, it's going to look terrible, okay? The other thing is, notice that my thread is much closer matching to the inner, this blue. If I put the blue out on this black, it's really going to show up strongly. This is kind of like a purple blue. So if I'm sewing out on this with that, it's much more likely that that's going to show up. And in fact, I did that, so I'll even show you. But if I'm stitching right here in this ditch like this, I have a much better opportunity to hide those stitches in my little valley right there. So you also can choose thread color that's going to help you hide a little bit better. Okay, so right there you can see I kind of went on the black. Well, this is a perfect time for me to fix that, and I can take those stitches out later. So I'll just get my spacing gauge right in there, line it flat right up against the ruler, really nice. And I'll be right in the ditch right there, so those little other stitches that are travel lines, I can get rid of those, or I can even cheat. I can take a Sharpie and I can just color them in if I want to. Or a Pigma pen, especially since it's black. Now, let me show you one more thing. You see that my thumb is down here. My thumb can also drive. He can manipulate really easy just by pushing and pulling. If I see that the gap suddenly is changing, like maybe there's a little dip in this seam, then I can use my thumb to just pivot a little bit more so I can get a little closer to that seam, and then when it flattens out, he can pull back immediately and adjust that. And I would tell you that I do think that maybe is a little bit more of an advanced technique, but you're not going to hurt anything by trying it, right? So go ahead. Okay.
Is that a little tool on your spacing gauge up there?
Oh, I will pull that up. So
There's a lot of talking. People are very curious.
what is that? Who knows what that is? Some people I know they know what it is. This is the short screwdriver for machines like Baby Lock or Brother. Some areas where the screwdriver has to get in, there's not a lot of clearance to actually put a big screwdriver, even the little one like this. Sometimes there's not enough room to get this in under the machine. So those machines come with this little tiny one, and while I was gone this past weekend, I was working on a Brother machine, and I had to have this handy, and it walked off a couple times. So and then I tethered it so nobody could take it. Then they knew it was mine. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll tie this off. So tying off, I'm stitching in my ditch very tiny little stitches, about 6. The thread that I'm using for this, I'll pull it out and I'll show you both of them. I actually have 2. One of them is variegated on the back, and that's because the back is black, and I thought that the variegated thread would be fun and would be interesting and add a little bit of dynamism to the back. So that is this sort of sea green color right here. I think of it as sea foam. There is the number, in case you want to know, 5148. And this is 40 weight polyester thread, and it is from Superior Threads. Fantastico is their variegated polyester thread. And you guys have seen I use this a lot. I like a few colors, and this is definitely one of them, 5148. I use this a lot. Shows up amazing on black, honestly. Then the other one that I used is actually just this plain purple, and I'll pull it right out of here so you could see it. We'll just unroll it a little bit. Right there. Magnifico is Superior's solid colors. So this on the top is sort of a bluish purple that's going to pick up all of the colors in this area. But once I get rid of all of these lines, I do feel like this purple will really show and let the design be a good visual. I didn't want to use black because I think that's too much contrast, but the purple will still be soft but very visible. And so I did test a few different colors just to make sure that what you could see would be a nice, good visual, but also let you play with some different color choices. So we haven't done a ton of things, but we did piecing with our spacing gauge and our ruler. And we talked about the flat pins. And then we did how do we place our circle so that we can use the arcs and get what we want. And what is the difference between each round of the circles, making decisions about what spacing that you want to have. So next time we're going to go ahead and we'll put some feathering in here, and we'll do something in the black as a little channel, probably between the lines. And then maybe we'll do some straight line work in here or ribbon if the ribbon will fit. I'm not sure if it will. But that way we can do a couple of different things, and we'll continue this and we'll finish this up next time. Have a great weekend, you guys. It's great to be back, and wow, so many great comments and so many good questions, and I didn't catch them all. So I'll go ahead and make sure that I do go back through the feed, and it won't be today, probably tomorrow. So if your question's burning and it didn't get answered, I'll definitely try to answer that, or you can check in with me through Messenger, okay? Then the last thing that I was going to tell you is we are back on Freemotion Fridays. If anybody is interested in that, that is on fabricated quilts. I do try to publish all of the videos in their proper playlist on YouTube afterwards, because some people have difficulty maybe finding them once they pass by, because Facebook sort of makes them disappear from the feed after a while. It's not that they're not there, but they're harder to find. Okay? So have a wonderful day, you guys. Happy quilting. Please share if you want to.